Welcome. Today we're going to do another stencil video. Stencil powdered frit on top of glass. Well, in this case, we're going to try to sandwich it in between the glass. We got two pieces. We got a white opal tecta and a clear tecta, 3 inches approximately square. We're going to put a pattern on the white, put the clear on top, fuse it together, and then come back with the same pattern and with a different color frit and put the pattern on there again, fire it again. What I'm hoping is it'll give a little bit of a shadow effect, like a shadow, but we're going to use a pink frit on the bottom layer and then a red frit on the top. So we'll see how that turns out. I was going to use black, but I thought that would be a little too harsh, so to be like a real shadow. So we're going to try pink. Worst case is you can't see it, not a big deal. So this is a pink opal, number 301 bullseye. And this is a red opal, 124. Now we also have a red transparent 1122. I'm not sure which one I'm going to use yet. We may use the clear, transparent, or the opal, but I've got both those options available. We're going to wait to see how the pink turns out first on the first firing, and then we'll go from there. But I've got those two options in mind, and we'll go from there. But we'll set those aside because we're not going to use those in this portion of the video. So the stencil I'm going to use is just a kind of a vinyl folk art stencil. I picked these up at Walmart. You can get them at probably any craft store. This one has several designs in it. I picked up some other ones just so you can see. This is just like a geometric pattern. I like this one because it was a kind of like a honeycomb. I thought I could do a honeycomb and then maybe a bee on top of it or something. So maybe do that one later. Here's another one with some sayings on it that you can use. They come in different sizes. And then here's another one. So we're just going to grab one of those. Since we're close to Valentines, I thought we'd do the love one right here, since it's about the size, a good size for the piece of glass we're going to use today. So let me get something dark to put behind it so you can kind of see what it looks like. Because it's white on white, it's kind of hard to see what the pattern is, and I'm just going to lay it on there. And I know it's going to be hard for you to see the pattern since it's very light colored. I've got this little picker tool, I call it. I'm going to set it on top, right on the edge, just to hold the stencil down, because it wants to kind of, it's bigger than the piece of glass and it kind of bows up a little bit. So I'm just going to lay it on there just for a second, just to kind of hold it flat. Ideally, I'd like a thicker stencil for applying frit to glass, but we're going to try these. Like I said, we'll try it together and see how it turns out. So let's get our frit and our little mini sifter, and let me get a brush. So I'm just going to do that kind of thing, and we're just going to put the whole color, a single color, on the design. So nothing fancy here, just one color with a pink opal. So here we go. Just going to apply that generously. Just go in a pattern to get it all over there. Some people will shake it. I prefer using it this way. And this frit I made with my glass crusher you saw in the previous video, and I want to make sure there's no metal pieces, shards that may have come off, so I'm going to just wave this over there just to see if there's any. Normally you wouldn't have to do this, but I didn't have this frit in this, in this color, in this grind, so I wanted to make my own, so it kind of created a little bit of metallic powder or metallic shavings that kind of went in it. So I just want to make sure there's nothing in there. As you saw, it grabbed my tool, and I'll do it again when we get done just to make sure there's nothing in there to discolor it or anything. I'm not going to go really thick with this, just a good coating, just to give you an idea of the color, because a real star is going to be the top layer with the red frit. So that looks good. I'm going to hold this down with one finger just so it doesn't move when I move this tool off. I'm going to get my magnet again just to make sure there's no shavings from before. Like I say, you normally wouldn't have to do this, but I was making some homemade frit and didn't turn out the best, but it worked. And we'll find out together whether this is going to be a good test or not. So I'm just going to lift this up real slowly until I get a good edge. Then I'm going to come around to the other side and just lift it straight off. And set that to the side. So now we've got a pattern on there. I'll lift it up here so you can see it. Looks pretty good. It's okay if you have some frit going around to the side, but it looks pretty straight. You can always take a brush, like a little paintbrush, and clean it up a little bit if you want. If you got some stray frit that went underneath the stencil, but this looks pretty good. It's okay if you get some straight pieces. It's not that big a deal. So now we're going to take this to the kiln, place it in the kiln, and then we're going to wait till we put it in the kiln before we put this piece on top. But once we get it on top, it'll look like this. Pretty straightforward. Just put it in the kiln. We're going to fuse fire it all the way, take it out, and then that'll be the next step. So you'll see what comes next right after that. Okay, we have our glass with our stencil loaded in the kiln. You'll also see we have a second one loaded. It's the same size as the other one, 3 inches. And we're going to fire it with the clear side down and the white side up. And also stencil that one so we can compare with the same stencil of the stenciling on clear and then stenciling on kind of the reverse side with the white opal glass. So we're going to do 2 here and stencil both of those when we're done, and then refire them. Okay, we're back from the kiln. We've got these 2 pieces fired. We did one with a stencil in between 2 layers of glass, and then we just fired 2 layers of glass, and then we're going to do a stencil right on top. We're also going to do a stencil on top of this one, just since we're going to fire them together. The one that we did the stencil with the pink did develop some bubbles because there was an air cavity in between where the frit was laid on there. So not ideal, but it's okay. We'll fire it again and maybe those will come out. Not sure how that'll work, but we'll give it a shot. And then I have the second one that we're just going to put the same pattern on top. We just clear underneath a white. And then once we get those fired with the stencil, we'll slump those into a mold. A slumper mold, a little small 3-inch slumper. So there. So first we're going to take the first one and we're going to overlay the stencil. And I'm going to try using my trick to hold the stencil down with the little tool here. Let's see how that works. Maybe I can get frit. I can move it around if I need to and then move it back. So we'll get it lined up. As best we can. And I am going to use a transparent instead of the opaque. I decided on that, the 1122 Bullseye Red transparent powder. We're just going to get our sifter tool here and lay down some frit onto the stencil. We're going to put it fairly heavy, thick as we can. This is a thin stencil, so I may be limited on how much I can get on there, but we'll do the best we can. I'll slide this out of the way just a touch. Slowly lift this off, that's not to disturb it. I know the frit looks orange, but this powder frit always is a lighter color than the actual color is going to end up being. It'll fire a lot darker. And we're just going to lift this straight up. Slide it over. I'm going to clean this off just a touch. Just shake it into a trash can. Just shake that off into a trash can, and because we're going to do the same pattern on the next one. So I'm just going to lightly set this out of the way. And just line this one up. Same pattern, same deal. Put our tool on here to hold the stencil down while I put the frit on there. And here we go, same thing. I usually put a good coating the first go around, then I'll come back and touch it up where areas I think is a little thin. I need a little more. I can see white through it, colors of the glass, and I'll come through and thicken it up a little bit. I think that looks okay. I'm gonna hold one side of it down and then lift it up. I'll set this to the side, clean that off later. So I think that's gonna turn out pretty good. I'll lift it up so you can see the final product before firing. I'm not sure yet whether I'm gonna fire this in the mold and let it melt as it slumps, or fire it flat and then slump it again later. I think I may try firing it in the slumping mold with the frit on it, hoping it'll reach a temperature where it'll start to fuse and melt before it slumps. I think that will work. We'll give it a shot. If not, it's an experiment and we'll find out that we can't do it. So let's give it a shot and we'll see how it turns out, and I'll come back in a little bit and show you the result. Okay, here's the kiln loaded. Before we fire it, I thought I'd show you what we have here. I decided to go ahead and put these on the slumping molds and slump them and see if they'll fuse at the same time. I believe they will, but we'll give it a shot and see how it turns out. And you can see those bubbles a little bit better in this shot of the one on the left. Not totally happy the way that one turned out, but nevertheless, it was an experiment and we're trying it for the first time together, so it's okay. And we'll just see how they turn out, compare the two when we're done. Okay, we're back. We've got both our pieces out of the kiln now. I'll lift those up so you can see them. This is the clear on top of white opaque. And this is the white with the clear bottom. Just a single stencil. This had a layered stencil. It doesn't really show through like I thought it was going to. And plus there's bubbles in there where maybe I applied it too thickly. So it didn't turn out great, still okay. It's a nice pattern, I think. This one turned out better, in my opinion. I could have went a little bit thicker with the frit powder. You can see a couple of spots that seem to be a little thin, but it's got a kind of a raised up feeling to it, which is fun. I was able to slump it and melt it on there at the same process, so that worked pretty good. So overall, I'm happy with the way it turned out. Looks okay. I think we'll try some more stencils and some other larger pieces and do a video on those and see what those turn out to be. So for this video, we're done, and thank you for watching.